back to the internet. Who invented the internet? Who can we give credit to for inventing the internet? Well, Sir Tim Berners-Lee created and invented the World Wide Web, which is different than the internet in this way. Imagine a time where you had to know exactly what you were looking for on the internet. There was no autofill. You had to know what you were looking for, and all the information was listed in directories, lists of files that you had to open up. Tim Berners-Lee's idea was that what if each one of these documents was able, using hypertext, to link to another document.
He wanted to manage the scientists' information and make it possible for them to share and interconnect their work easily, making progress more likely.
That was the big idea in the late 80s and early 90s that transformed the internet into the World Wide Web. But the birth of the internet really begins in the 1950s as the United States Defense Department put together an agency called the Advanced Research Projects Agency, ARPA, which led to ARPANET. What happened in the late 1960s and early 70s was the innovation of packet switching, known as the Internet Protocol Suite, or TCP/IP, which allowed bigger chunks of data to be broken down into smaller pieces to be transferred along these lines. Another technology and innovation that was hugely important to the growth of the internet and the development of the World Wide Web was the graphical user interface, the mouse, and the hyperlink. All of these things were developed for the first time in 1968 by Douglas Engelbart in a 90-minute presentation called The Mother of All Demos.
I hope you'll go along with this rather unusual setting and the fact that I remain seated when I get introduced, and the fact that I'm going to come to you mostly through this medium here.
For the first time ever in 1968, through a video teleconference, which also was happening for the first time, Doug Engelbart demonstrated hypertext using a mouse to navigate.
Let's make more statements. I'll say copy that statement, and lo and behold I have another one. Copy that one, another one. I can even copy groups of statements. I can say after that one, copy the group from there to there, and it does.
With a graphical user interface and hyperlinks, which is clicking on those things and going to other lists.
But there's another thing I can do. There's a route I said I have here. So here, I'm afraid I'll need a different picture of the view. So here's what I drew with a picture drawing capability here. It's a slight map if I start from work, and here's the route I seem to have to go to pick up all the materials. And that's my plan for getting home tonight. But if I want to, I can say, the library, what am I supposed to pick up there? I can just point to that, and oh, I see, overdue books and all. Well, there was a statement there with that name on it. Go back. What am I supposed to pick up at the drugstore? I see, very interesting. All right.
What he was trying to create here was an integrated machine for augmenting the human intellect.
Basic goal, improve the effectiveness with which individuals and organizations work at intellectual tasks. What does their effectiveness involve then? Better solutions, faster solutions, solutions to more complex problems, with better use of human capabilities.
Increasing the capability of a person to approach complex problem situations, to increase comprehension or understanding to suit their particular needs, and to derive or create solutions to those problems. That's a tool. This is exactly it. When we think about the very basic definition of technology, that is, humans inventing a tool to accomplish something more efficiently, with greater ease, to expand the scope of what can be done. And that's a technology that's very familiar to us today, but 50 years ago it was like brand new. What's that? It had never been demonstrated, seen, or used before. So by the early 80s, ARPANET was using the Internet Protocol Suite, which allowed the network, the internet back then, to include a handful, university campuses and research centers. And then in 1986, the National Science Foundation net, NSF net, included and expanded even more nodes in the network. Commercial internet service providers began to emerge in the late 1980s. By the early and mid-90s, ARPANET and NSFNet was decommissioned, and that removed the last barrier, the last restrictions on commerce on the internet. Before then, it was only government-funded research that was allowed to take place on those networks. So all of these innovations over time, the Internet Transfer Protocol, hypertext, the graphical user interface, all made possible Tim Berners-Lee's invention, the World Wide Web, which gave us the familiar internet that we have today of clickable text and links. Let's go back further and take an even broader view of human culture and technology. Fidler defined 3 significant periods of mediamorphosis in human culture and language: spoken language, written language, and digital language. Fidler says we are just at the beginning of the phase of human digital language, and those formerly rigid distinctions between text, image, and sound will become even more blurred in this third phase as we develop new media to articulate the ever more subtle affects of our observations, thoughts, and feelings. This kind of technology not only changes how we think about things, but the types of things that we can think of, the types of things that we can conceive and understand. What kind of technologies do you think are killing other technologies or forcing other technologies to evolve? What kinds of tools or systems do you think are going out of style or dying slowly? Or what kinds of new media systems do you see expanding and growing? Talk about it. Tell me. Let me know. I need to know.